Speaking of leaders, or maybe leaders not being on the pitch, Milan beat Sampdoria and got another W without Zlatan. They are breaking more and more records every week. It is their best start to a season since the mid-50s. It's 8 wins in their opening 10 games, which is their best start since they had 9 wins in the mid-50s. They scored in their last 30 matches. That's an all-time record for Milan in their history. They have won 7 consecutive games away. The list goes on, but it looks like we could see Zlatan back against Parma this weekend, as he has reportedly received positive feedback from a medical test this week. But I don't want to talk about Zlatan this week because, and Milan, we keep rinsing and repeating. They keep winning. They're staying at the top. They're 5 points clear. Let's rank or just pick out the most important players in Zlatan's absence, or just anyway for Milan this season. Who are you going to go for, Matteo?
I have number 1, Gigio Donnarumma. I think Milan pick up so many more points with Donnarumma over the course of the season, where he makes so many vital saves that change the course of the game. Number 2, and surprisingly so, Simon Kjaer, Milan's best center back, finally a great partner for Alessio Romagnoli, but in many ways he's played much better than Romagnoli. And I don't think a lot of people would have seen that coming, given the way that Kjaer has been this journeyman defender hopping from team to team throughout his career. And number 3, I think, is pretty obvious, but Ismael Bennacer. Him and Franck Kessie have formed such a good holding midfield duo. You could honestly pick any one of them as those top 3 players of importance. But Bennacer, he's so tidy in possession. He's actually quite good defensively, and he's the perfect complement to what Franck Kessie does. And a big reason why Milan have been so consistent and have been so good is because of the play of those two linking the defense with the attack and really working so well together.
I find it impossible to name 1 or 2 players because I feel like this whole team's amazing. Like, you know, there'll be moments where I'll be like, wow, Salmakers is amazing. Like, why did we never spot this kid, you know? And then you'll look and you'll be like, Calhanoglu, the way that he's grown and the way that he's developed. And for so many times, I thought to myself, you need to sell this guy. He's not obviously doing it, but he's been magnificent. I think Franck Kessie and Bennacer, just like you said, and Donnarumma makes up for the fact that Milan don't know how to defend from set pieces. And so, you know, when you have him, you just have strength at the back, and you can honestly have like 2 of the worst defenders ahead of him. And I still think he would rescue that side over and over again. He's so fantastic. But as it happens, they have a great defense as well. And it's like Matteo just mentioned, Kjaer. I never know how to say him. It just doesn't, his name just doesn't roll off the tongue like it does for Matteo.
Yeah.
And
I think I say it wrong as well.
Yeah, it's really hard.
Yeah.
And and by the way, and they managed another win without so many important players. And it's almost like, you know, at this point, you can take away the management, you can take away the coach, you can take away their best players, and they'll still win because each player is not just developing on a technical level or on a tactical level, but in terms of leadership too. They really want this, and they are really playing some of their best football. Even when they're not always at their best, they know how to do it through just a sheer mentality, sheer force. Honestly, my money is all on them to win this title.
I also don't know how to say Kjaer or Kjaer. Interrupted you. I'm like, I don't even know if that's right. And I think I change.
Simon.
I think I change as well. Like from one day to next, I'll just switch it up. Sorry to everyone out there who's listening to this and tearing their hair out at our mauling of the name Simon Kjaer. But look, I think if you ask me like instinctively who I think is most, I don't know, who's most critical to this team, immediately my mind goes to Kessie and Bennacer. I think that partnership is, as the other 2 have just mentioned, like it's just so fundamental. Like it's so core to the identity of this team. I think Franck Kessie is an extraordinary young captain for this team, certainly in a sort of, well, a young leader for this team, at least in the way he carries the midfield. I think there's a couple of names that still haven't been mentioned, and I think it speaks to Mina's point that frankly it's impossible to pick out one person because you can keep going on and on and on. But I think Rafael Leao and his ability to dribble, the difference he gives you, and I think that's speaks to the variety in this forward line. You've got Ibrahimovic, who can do Ibrahimovic things, but also tactically can be like a totem, can be someone who stands there and occupies space and you can play around. You've got Ante Rebic, who I think the word that Pioli likes to use for him is he gives quantità, which literally means quantity, but it means, you know, hustle. It means being everywhere. But the other player who I think is sort of a great unsung hero of this Milan team this season, Calabria. Calabria has won the most tackles of anyone in all of Serie A. He's a ball winner, all up and down that right-hand side of the pitch. He's not the sort of most eye-catching player in that mix, but he's a really effective and important part of that puzzle. So I think the whole team is the real star. Like, I think that's the point, is it's such a well-functioning machine right now that everyone has a part to play.
That's a great point. It's Mina. Teamwork is the biggest thing, because against Sampdoria they were without Simon, they were without Bennacer, they were without Ibrahimovic, and they were going up against a nightmare scenario, a team that plays such negative football, everyone behind the ball, just like what we saw with Sampdoria against Juventus. There's just no attempt to play any sort of football whatsoever, just hoping and praying on the set piece, or Quagliarella creates something out of the blue. And no Ibrahimovic, no one to play the ball off of. So you have Rebic, who's out of position, who doesn't really work against a team that's that deep. And this Milan always finds a way. And by the way, players like Sandro Tonali, yet again, quite poor. And they can overcome any sort of lapses in concentration. Feels like Milan always find a way. And I expect them to win every single game, which is crazy to think about, because this is unrecognizable from the team that we saw for the last 7 seasons.
Can I ask just one question to you guys? Like, because you were saying about Tonali, and it's my sort of, I hope that will work together. Just once, I just want to ask your quick response to this, Mina, and then I will leave you the floor. Is there another tandem, like 2 midfielders in all of Serie A, that you would rather be starting with than Kessie and Bennacer? Because for me, it's a no. Like, for me, that's the best central midfield 2 in the division.
Agreed.
I do think so. I do think, I'll be honest, I always feel like midfield wins you championships and wins you everything, to be honest. So it was always Luka Modric and Toni Kroos. That was, for me, something amazing. For Juventus, obviously, Andrea Pirlo at the time, Pogba and Vidal. And I thought last year, for me, it was Sensi and Barella alongside Brozovic was fantastic to watch when they were on their game. But you're right, it is Franck Kessie, and obviously Bennacer. But I also really want to mention the fact that the very best teams are ones in which you really don't know who to point to. Like when Bayern won the treble, it was like, who do you give it to? Because Frank Ribery is amazing and Robben's amazing. Or Antonio Conte's Juventus in the first seasons, when you just looked at that and you thought to yourself, it is such a team effort. And one of the lines that was written at the time in one of the newspapers, which I forget, was, Conte can change players like Elizabeth Taylor changes husbands, and everything continues to work as normal. And I thought it was the most fantastic thing, because it was also the substitutions. I mean, speaking of players whose names I still cannot pronounce properly, no matter how much I try, no matter how many Forvo I listen to, Hauge. I hope this is how I say his name.
Perfect, actually. Sound Norwegian.
Oh, amazing. And he comes on. Hauge, and he comes on, and I'm just thinking, this kid is terrific. It's every player that comes on does something special, and sometimes they won't be at the top of their game. You know, they were very dependent on Theo Hernandez last season. Now they're a little bit more balanced with, like you said, Calabria, who, by the way, just gives the best interviews. So honest, so wonderful to listen to. I really hope he makes it to the Euros. But it's also that, it's the fact that you can take off whoever it is and you can survive without some of your best players, because whoever's sitting on the bench is happy to do their best and can give their best in only a few minutes.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.